Okay, once we have our cameras basically figured out, we have a composition chosen, what we need to do is get our lighting worked out because that's going to be a very important part of our overall image. So what I'm going to do to work out the lighting is, first of all, seems kind of odd, but I'm going to take these windows, select them all, and then I'm going to isolate them. And what I'm going to do is put a proper material on these, and we're going straight into V-Ray now. I'm just going to go ahead and reset all my material slots, make sure my renderer is set to V-Ray. Okay, make a standard V-Ray material here, and this will be basically our override material. Whoops. V-Ray material. And we can use a middle gray and just apply that to our nice windows here. Let's turn off our clay and show default shading. Okay, now what I'm going to do here, and this is the important part, is I'm going to put a basic glass material by making it black, and we'll put some reflection on it. That's not necessary yet. We'll put a lot of refraction on it, and then make sure it's affecting shadows, and we will apply it just to these areas. So we're going into sub-object mode of element, selecting all the panes of glass and assigning this material, and we'll rename it to glass B. There's already a glass in here, glass window. You can see those two are instants, so they both got it at the same time. We'll have to do the same thing for the bottom. And assign, there we go. Okay, now the reason we did that, and one last thing that I'm going to do, is group this together, Control G, and call it Windows, or you can go to Group and say Group. Okay, now unisolate. Now what we're going to do is an override rendering. We'll go back to camera 1, turn on save frames. Okay, we're going to go to this override rendering in here, in our render settings. Go into V-Ray, go into global switches, and I like doing switch all to expert here. Right click and say switch all to expert. Because if you understand all the settings, it's annoying if they're gone, because you actually want to be able to set those. We're not going to go over full render settings yet, but we will at some point during this course. For now, we're just looking for the override material. Okay, check this on. We need also our materials we need to make a basic override material, which will just be basically middle gray for now. The V-Ray material, the default V-Ray material will work. We can drag it into here. Instance. Now go into here for exclude, and make sure we're excluding, make sure it's exclude that's checked and not include, because that means it'll only include what you put in this list. You want it to exclude what is put in this list. And that's where we'll find bracket, windows. Okay, so all groups have the brackets around them, so that just makes it easier to find. So those will not be overridden. And what that does is make it so that light will still come through the glass windows. So I want everything to be overridden except for the glass windows. Now, basic render settings, let's do a little preview here and look at what our lighting is currently, and then we can talk about how it was set up. For preview renderings, we can make this smaller. And I will just set it to progressive here, and we'll say render for 1 minute, and everything else is basically default. For GI, we have brute force and light cache. Okay, that's all fine. Okay, it's very noisy, but there it is. It's kind of cool lighting-wise. So you can see the only light in the scene is just coming through the window, and there's some lights poking through up here, but it's not having a major effect on the scene. But this gives us an idea of what just the outside light is doing. So in this case, we can get the outside light doing what we want it to, and then we can go back and adjust the others. One nice thing that this is doing is lighting up one side of each of these bottles here and some of the other objects, giving it a very 3D effect, which gives the image, the overall image, depth. So let's look at what that outside light is doing and how we're getting that effect. Now, you can see that I have a big sun out here, but it's actually not turned on. So this is coming via HDRI, which is right here. We will talk about that in our next lecture.